Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today I'm doing a comparison test, and that's why I've come outdoors. I'm looking at the video quality differences between the Sony Z-V1 and the Apple iPhone 12 Pro Max. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is a very good reason actually. We go out and about on day trips, and I always take me bigger cameras, you know, I say bigger cameras, proper cameras, for taking, you know, photographs with. But I like to have a camera I can take good quality, I hate the word, but snaps with, you know. And I've always used something like a Sony Z-V1, an RX100, I did have a Ricoh GR2, and those kind of cameras. But the thing is, you have to take two with you, because you've got your mobile phone with you all the time, but then you have to take a camera, normally have it on a pouch. But I want to get rid of that and just use the 12 Pro Max. But I want to know that the image quality is going to be really good. I haven't done a comparison of stills as yet. Today I'm looking at video quality between the two cameras, because I do quite often do video clips, you know, and I want to, you know, get really nice quality video. And I know the iPhone is capable of really good quality video, but I want to prove to myself that it's capable of it, not just looking at other people's YouTube videos. Although, to be fair, that is really helpful. That's why you guys and girls are here watching this one, because it does help, you know, either make buying decisions, or it's just interesting to see. Now, what we're looking at today, we've got the Z-V1 on that side, and we've got the 12 Pro Max on that side, which hopefully is being picked up from my ZV-E10 behind the cameras. Now, I've got it on face detect, so I suspect the two cameras are going to be out of focus. If the ZV-E10 is doing its job properly, it will be focusing on my face and not on the cameras. Although saying that, my face will be on the cameras, so it might well be picking that up instead. I don't know, so I look at it back at the studio. So I've got the ZV-E10 just filming the two cameras, as it were. Now, with the ZV-E10, there is a built-in neutral density filter. I've got that turned on. There isn't one in the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and this is where its Achilles heel is. You can't adjust the aperture on the 12 or any mobile phones. It's a fixed aperture, and they're normally very wide apertures. So what I've done, I've put a Polar Pro variable ND filter on the 12 Pro Max with its case. So it's got the filter fits on the case, and I've also set it to 180-degree shutter using an app called ProTake. It's a really, really good app. So I can set the exposure manually. I'm using zebras on the 12 Pro Max to get the you know, pretty much the correct exposure. I'm hoping it's going to be pretty well exposed. Both cameras are shooting in 4K. Well, all three cameras actually are shooting in 4K at 25 frames a second. So I've tried to balance them by the fact that the ND filter is turned on the ZV1. Now, I'm in shade here, but there's a bit of sun coming through the trees, and it will create a bit of shadow on my face, so you'll have to live with that, I'm afraid. I will move to another location, which is in the sun, just to see how well the cameras cope under those conditions. Now, I'm using the wide lens on the 12 Pro Max. I call it the standard lens, but Apple call it the wide lens, because there's ultra wide, wide and telephoto. So I'm using the wide lens. What we'll do is go over to another location. I might change the lenses, but it's pointless using the ultra wide on the 12 Pro Max if I'm doing a comparison, because the ZV1 only goes as wide as 24mm. Well, the standard lens on the, or wide lens on the 12 Pro Max is equivalent to 26mm. So they're both very, very similar. I won't use the ultra wide lens on the 12 Pro Max because it kind of defeats the object of doing this comparison between the two, because the ZV1 won't go as wide as what the ultra wide does on the 12 Pro Max. So there we go. That's, you know, what you're looking at is the image quality between the two. I will cut between the two, and I will put in the video which scene is from which camera. I'm hoping they're going to be very similar. The fact that I can't adjust the aperture on the 12 Pro Max is one of those, as I say, it's one of those Achilles heels. You are set at f1. I think it's f1.8 or 1.6, I'm not sure. But obviously with the ZV1, I've got that set to shutter priority. So it will adjust the aperture accordingly. I didn't set manual exposure on the Z-V1, I've just let it do what it does. But if this test works out really well, then I know for sure, once I've tested the photographs, I know for sure I won't need to take out my RX100 or the Z-V1. But let's say I'm doing video today, and then I shall do some photographs comparing the two, you know, in another video. I think it's best to keep the two videos separate, and there we go. So what we'll do now, let's go over to another location and see how well it works in really bright sunlight. I've now come over to the pond, so it may well be, in fact, I mean, this is probably a dumb thing to do, because I'm stood right next to the pump, so it's going to be quite noisy. Maybe I should come over here. But yeah, I'm just doing this, still using the wide lens, so I'm going to be quite small in the frame. I'm doing that deliberately because I'm then going to switch to the telephoto lens. Now, the great thing with the Z-V1, even though it's quite a distance away, I can clearly see that it is recording. There's a red tele light on the camera. On the 12 Pro Max, no tele light whatsoever, so I have no idea that it is recording. But secondly, there is a screen that you can flip round on the Z-V1, so you can see yourself while you're recording. Again, with the 12 Pro Max, there isn't any screen. You either preset it up, or you hope that it is the you know, the same angle, the same settings, and what have you. Now, it should be pretty similar, simply because I've got them on one tripod, so they should be fairly similar. But I can't say that for sure. But the benefit with the 12 Pro Max is its large screen, very easy to see in daylight. It's great, even setting the zebras, because with using ProTake, it's great because it's got zebra settings, and you can set the zebras, and on a big screen like the 12 Pro Max, makes it really easy. So what I'm going to do now, we've had a look at this, I'm going to now switch to the telephoto lens on the 12 Pro Max and basically zoom in on the Z-V1 to simulate, you know, how that would work in a real world scenario if I did need to get in tighter. So, and that's another reason why I've come quite a distance. I am still in the shade. In this garden, it's very difficult to find sunlight simply because of so many trees. But what we'll do is sunlight coming through the trees, mind you, because it's a glorious sunny day. But what we'll do now is switch over to the telephoto lens, and we'll zoom in a bit and see how good that is. I've now zoomed in on the Z-V1 to its maximum, which is 70mm on full frame terms, equivalent to a full frame. And on the 12 Pro Max, I've got it set to the tele lens, which is I think 67mm, so kind of very similar. So I'm hoping the look is very similar, and I'm hoping I've got the framing very similar. One of the big downsides with the Z-V1 is its little battery. It's a little BX1 battery, and it runs out really quick, and it's showing a red warning on the battery indicator. So I have no doubt that the battery will die on me before I actually finish this filming. So we'll have to see on that. But that's now the tele lens. I'm hoping the quality is still very good. I don't know how good the tele lens is on the 12 Pro Max. I know the standard lens is meant to be the best one, but I want to see how good the tele lens is, because obviously I might want to do some telephoto filming with the 12 Pro Max, which is easy to do on the Z-V1 because it's got a Zeiss lens, really, really nice lens on the Z-V1. Just be careful you don't go into digital zoom, which is what I almost did. So I must remember to turn that off actually. I don't know why it's turned on, but there we go. That's the tele lens on the 12 Pro Max, and zoomed in tighter on the Z-V1 in quite a bit of shade. So we'll see what it looks like when I get back into the studio. I'm now doing a quick shot with the ultra wide lens on the 12 Pro Max. I have no idea what the framing is like. I can see part of the bridge is in the shot. I don't know what the framing is like. And also the sound. The radio mic won't be working because that's plugged into the Z-V1. So this might be a complete waste of time. I'm picking up the sound on my ZV-E10 using a gun mic I've got on it, but it's probably going to be a waste of time. But anyway, that is the wide shot with the 12 Pro Max. I thought it would be a good idea now to test the selfie camera on the iPhone 12 Pro Max for doing this sort of thing for vlogging. Now obviously with the Z-V1 it should in theory be a lot better, simply because it's got that Zeiss 24-70 lens, where the iPhone 12 Pro Max I'm having to use obviously the selfie camera. But the advantage is I can now see myself, which I couldn't with the front facing cameras. The image stabilization though on the 12 Pro Max is probably going to be better than what it is on the Z-V1. I have got the Z-V1 set to active steady shot. The drawback with that got me hold my hand right the way out, because obviously it cuts in a lot tighter. You can clearly see on the 12 Pro Max it's a wider lens, which is great because it shows much more of your surroundings, which is great for vlogging. It gives the audience a feeling of where you are and what's going on around you. You know, the Z-V1 is a lot tighter. I've tried balancing them out, and it's not that easy to do, because obviously I've got both of them on one bracket, as it were. But yeah, that is the front-facing camera on the 12 Pro Max, which is that one there. Basically, they call it the selfie camera, which would be right. It seems pretty good. It seems okay for this sort of thing. Both shooting in 4K, 25 frames a second. I've got the ND filter turned on the Z-V1. I haven't on the 12 Pro Max because I'm not using the filter. I'm basically using Apple's standard app that you know is built in into the phone. The Z-V1 obviously has got the articulating screen, so I can just flip the screen round and use the same lens. So, but effectively it is tighter. I'm using the sound, the built-in sound of the Z-V1, and I've got its little furry thing to protect the microphone from any wind noise. So you're now listening to what the sound quality is like using the Z-V1. But now we'll switch to the sound of the 12 Pro Max to see how good the sound is on that if you're doing vlogging. So that's now the sound coming from the 12 Pro Max. It's built-in microphones. I've set that to auto audio level. Well, it is auto on the Apple app. You can't set it manually. It's all pretty much auto. You can see a little bit of ghosting, it looks like, on the 12 Pro Max, but the Z-V1's gone really dark. So I think the 12 Pro Max is handling the exposure just a little bit better. That might be because the 12 Pro Max has got a fixed aperture. You can't adjust the aperture on the 12 Pro Max. What the camera will be doing is adjusting the ISO and the shutter speed to counteract the fact it's got a really wide aperture on the 12 Pro Max. Let me swap hands, that's getting heavy. I do suffer with a bad shoulder and a bad arm on my left arm here, but yeah, so you can see it's they're both pretty good. They're both pretty good, and they're handling the flare coming through the trees pretty well. There we go. So I think the Z-V1 is handling that better than what the 12 Pro Max is. Quite like that flare actually, that looks quite nice. But so yeah, that is the selfie camera on the 12 Pro Max and the Z-V1. But I am really enjoying the 12 Pro Max. It's got a good recording indication, so you can see that it is actually recording. Likewise, the Z-V1 has as well, because it's got the red tally light, so there's no real advantages there. I think the biggest advantage with the 12 Pro Max is its wider angle lens with the selfie camera, where with the Z-V1 you've got to set it to active steady shot, or you could use catalyst browse in post editing to stabilize the footage. So you know, I don't see the stabilization of being the biggest selling point between these two. As I say, what I'm trying to achieve is, do I need to take out a little compact camera like the Z-V1 or the RX100 when I'm going out and about? And looking at the 12 Pro Max, I think that would do the job nicely. But anyway, that's that. Let's get back into the studio and finish this review. I've looked at the footage in the studio and I did find the iPhone 12 Pro Max actually seems to be better than what the Z-V1 is, and that to me shouldn't be right at all. The Z-V1 has a 1-inch sensor in. The iPhone 12 Pro Max, I don't know what size it is, but it's certainly a lot smaller than 1 inch, but it's not as contrasty on the 12 Pro Max, which I think is better, because the Z-V1 just looks really, the blacks look really black and the whites look really white. I know it can be adjusted in the edit. What you've seen in this video is straight out of camera. I haven't done any colour correcting or colour balancing, but the actual sharpness and the detail of both cameras looks really good. But I did find the 12 Pro Max handles the contrast, seems to handle it a lot better. I also found using the cameras, the screen is better on the 12 Pro Max than on the Z-V1, which I did notice while I was filming. It's a lot brighter in sunny conditions. So when I am out and about, I can see it clearly in bright sunlight. You can't with the Z-V1. The screen dulls really quite badly under certain lighting conditions, particularly in bright sunlight. That was one thing. Also, I did find the battery on the Z-V1, as we all know, isn't particularly long lasting. The 12 Pro Max, again, so much better. The battery just seems to be really, really good in that particular smartphone. But I am seriously impressed with the footage that comes off the 12 Pro Max. Certainly is very, very usable. Also, the selfie camera. Now there was an interest as well. I did put the Z-V1 in active steady shot, so that did crop it in tighter. I guess I could have used it in standard steady shot or even no steady shot whatsoever. But the 12 Pro Max was wider, for the selfie camera was wider. Also, it handled the very contrasty scenes so much better. I wasn't getting deep blacks. It looked like I was in shadow, you know, I was silhouetted in certain scenes, but not on the 12 Pro Max. It handled it really well. A bit more flare on the 12 Pro Max, but I quite like that. But as I say, I've not edited any of the footage, so you guys and girls can see it as it is, which I think is the best way of doing it. I'm actually filming this last scene on the ZV-E10 as my closest sort of shot, tighter shot. Then I've got the 12 Pro Max getting the wider shot using its wide lens. I still call it the standard lens, but Apple call it the wide lens. And then behind that, I'm using the Z-V1 just to film the two cameras that I'm filming me with. So that's the 3 camera setup I have out here this afternoon. So there we go. That's a very short test of a comparison between the Z-V1 and the 12 Pro Max. And yeah, I'm very happy with what I get out the smartphone, and I think I will certainly be able to use the iPhone for my video content, and not necessarily in the studio and not for pro stuff, but certainly for some of my YouTube stuff. And when I'm going out and about with my girlfriend and with my brother, the 12 Pro Max will handle it fine. And also, when you see the video to do with still images, I think you'll be blown away by how good the stills are from the 12 Pro Max. Again, I've done another comparison between the 12 Pro Max and the Z-V1 for stills photography, as I have done with this video for videography. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found my channel useful. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit the like button if you find the content of this video really useful. I am planning to do more videos to do with mobile phone photography, accessories for mobile phones, you know, polarizing filters, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that. So thanks very much for watching. Cheers for now. Bye.